All right, everybody, welcome back. I'm excited. Before I get too far, let's not forget if you're on YouTube, thanks for watching. Check out my website here, danceofthecosmos.com. Again, my name's Dan Hendricks, and the reason I'm excited is because this is our conclusion to the series that I've made of karma, fate, free will, and astrology. This is part 7. In part 7, now we're finally going to get into astrology. In part 6, I talked about Dridha and Adridha. You know, this idea of karma, these two classifications of karma, and the middle one, Dridha, Adridha. But mainly Dridha, Adridha. And the idea of a karma that is fixed and solid and more to be experienced in life, and one that is less so to be experienced in life. And so what I want to get to in this video is we're going to show examples. And so we're going to look at two charts. And we're going to look specifically at the emotional nature of these two people. And so with that in mind, we have a lot to go through because what I have here is I have a list. It's handwritten. It's not an official form. But what I wanted to show you, what I wanted to talk about is how astrology can relate to karma and how it shows karma and the fact that there's a lot of stuff to look at. And so what I wanted to really show you here is to always look for as many influences to the subject matter that you have at hand as possible to get an idea for if this is a real, how strongly you can expect this, whatever you're looking at in the chart, whatever your subject matter in the chart is, to be concretely happening or not, or to what intensity. Because for the most part, so we have Dridha, which is completely fixed, and we have Adridha, which is like a slight little breeze will make it go away. What I'm going to show you here is that for just about everything in the chart, there's like it's really in between. And so I'm going to show you one that's a little bit less extreme, of more closer to what I would say in as far as Adridha, and one that is more of an example of Dridha karma. So before I get into that though, I want to talk about what we're going to look at, because I wrote it down so I could be as fast as possible so I don't go off on tangents or forget what I'm talking about. So what we're going to look at is we're going to look at the 4th house. So we're going to look at the 4th house in the chart, which is the 4th Rashi counted from the ascendant, from the Lagna degree. We're going to look at Rashi aspects and conjunctions to that 4th house, that Rashi, and we're going to look at the dignities of those planets that are aspecting. And we're going to look at the nature of those planets. Are they cruel planets? Are they gentle planets? And then we're going to look at the 4th Lord itself. We're going to look at the planetary dignity of the 4th Lord. We're going to look at the placement of the 4th Lord. Is it in a Dushtana? Is it in an angle? Is it in a trine? Is it in the 10th? Is it, and then we're going to look at the placement of it, because that's going to tell us a lot about the dignity, whether it's in a natural friend sign, a natural neutral sign, or a exaltation, debilitation, etc., etc. Then we're going to look at the logitati of Vashtas that are influencing that 4th Lord. We're going to look at the conjunction and the Rashi aspects that are influencing that 4th Lord. We're going to look at the Shadbala of the 4th Lord. And then we're also going to look at what Parashara calls like the annihilation or separation factors of a house. So this ties a little bit, it's tying in the 4th house with the 4th Lord and how the 4th Lord is acting to help manifest or is showing annihilation of the 4th house. So now that's just talking about the 4th house. We're also, since we're going to be talking about the emotional nature and like the person's like happiness and such, we're going to look at the moon. We're going to look at the dignity of the moon, the placement of the moon in the chart. Same thing as the Lord, basically. So conjunctions, Rashi aspects, logitati of Vashtas, Shadbala, those kind of factors, etc. And then we're going to bring it all the way into the Vargas. we're going to look at the Shodamsha Varga. The Shodamsha Varga is the D16 or the 16th Varga. So what is 16? 16 is 4 squared, right? So it's like the ultimate manifestation of how this energy is going to play out. We could also look at the D4, but we could get in the D40, we get in the D60, we get in the D30 even to see if it's going to be a health issue. But we're just going to look at the Rashi and the Shodamsha. And then in the Shodamsha, we're going to look at, of course, the moon. And in the Shodamsha, the important planet in the Shodamsha is Venus. We're going to look at Venus's status. We're going to look at the 4th house, which is the 4th Rashi from the ascendant there. But we're also going to look at the 4th cusp. And if you don't know the difference between the two, cusp is a number. So we're going to look for the little thing, the little blue number 4, okay? So, and then we're going to look at the 4th Lord there also. So the Lord of that 4th Rashi, and we'll look at the Lord of that 4th cusp. So with all that being said, that's a lot of stuff to look at here. So I'm going to go pretty fast because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make a couple points here. I'm trying to make a couple points that to really understand and get a full picture of anything, you need to see confluence of factors. And the reason why we have all these different things and different ways of looking at stuff is so that we can gain this kind of bigger, grander idea of everything that's happening in the chart. So now, with this being said, let's go ahead and start. So the first chart I have, so right away, what we can see here, so we're just going to start right off. With this chart, we're looking at the 4th house. Now the 4th house, right away, what do we see? We see it has Saturn. Saturn is a cruel planet. Saturn is probably having Saturn or Rahu in the 4th house right away. That's going to show that there's going to be some emotional issues with the person. But you can't just leave it there and be like, oh, okay, that's it. Let's see how else the chart looks. So we see that we have a cruel Saturn here. Saturn's enemy is his dignity is going to be that of an enemy dignity. So that's, again, that's showing more of a negative influence to the 4th house. And then we can see what planets are Rashi aspecting. Since this is Sagittarius, we have Rahu, a cruel planet. We have Ketu. Well, I won't really count Ketu's aspect, just Rahu. We'll just count Rahu and Sun. But then we also have Jupiter aspecting. So Jupiter aspecting, that's going to show some positive times when the emotional stuff won't be as heavy, basically. Everything will kind of lighten up the load a little bit. So that's the 4th house. So let's look at the 4th Lord. Well, the Lord of Sagittarius, again, is this Jupiter. Now, how's Jupiter doing? Well, Jupiter is in the 10th Rashi. The 10th Rashi is going to help Jupiter to manifest the 4th house to make things better. Jupiter's in a natural enemy sign and in great enemy dignity. So how's Jupiter going to do while he's in that 10th house? Not that great, you know. But we also see that Jupiter, again, is Rashi aspecting his own house. That's a good thing. But then Jupiter also inherits all of the same Rashi aspects as the 4th house. So Jupiter is going to get Rashi aspected by Rahu, Saturn, and Sun. 3 cruel planets, no aspects of any gentle planets to help with this 4th house. And then what we can look at too is we can look at the Shad Bala. Let's just check this out real quick. So what we're going to look at with Shad Bala, we're going to look, because we know we're going to end up, because I told you earlier, we're going to look at Jupiter, because it's the 4th Lord. We're going to look at the moon. So let's look at all these planets. Well, Jupiter's Shad Bala is decent enough at 511, but we see the moon's Shad Bala is sagging a little bit at 344. It's below, it's at 0.96. It's not quite, it's at 96%, not quite 100%. Venus, 95%, not quite 100%. Keep those numbers in mind. Jupiter is doing well through Shad Bala. Moon and Venus are actually below their required point totals. That's not necessarily a good thing to see. Now, so with Jupiter, we see the Shad Bala is strong. So, and then Lajatati Avashta-wise. Well, Jupiter, like I mentioned earlier, in a natural enemy sign. That's not a great place for Jupiter. So let's pull up the Avashta screen. Now we see that the fourth lord Jupiter gets taken to a negative 28.2 right here, and down all the way to 40 or 54.6. And then what the problem that this Jupiter has, even though it has a nice Shodbala, the Shodbala value of Mercury here is hurting it. And then we also see the Shodbala value of the Sun actually in this chart is hurting it as well. And then we see that the Moon's only helping it to a slight degree. We see Mars is only helping Jupiter to a slight degree. So we see some troubles with this Jupiter here, taken all the way to a negative and not enough to really bring him up to help support him reach his goal of 390 points. That's where, see, Jupiter has 510. Well, 390 is what Jupiter needs to operate efficiently. So we see that Jupiter's brought down by enemies. So this is a struggling fourth lord. This is trying very hard to produce its emotions and make a happy life, but it's kind of struggling here. So now let's move on to the, well, hold on real quick. Let's also look for, as far as the fourth house, what it's important to look at is the Lord Rashi aspecting the fourth house. Yes, Jupiter is Rashi aspecting the fourth house. And Jupiter is also, he's in Bala Avashta. So if Jupiter were in Kumara or Kumara or Yuva Avashta, which would be if Jupiter was between 6 to 12 degrees or between 12 to 18 degrees of Gemini, then Jupiter would be able to help manifest his house. So we can see that Jupiter is just Rashi aspecting. A planet in the 10th is going to help to manifest his house. So Jupiter's got a couple accounts of actually making the fourth house a better thing. Now, but we also see that we have Saturn there, as we talked about earlier, but Saturn's also the sixth lord. So now we have a Dushtana lord that's also in the fourth. So we have a cruel planet Saturn. We have cruel Rashi aspects going to it. So we can see that fourth house is definitely more harmed than it is helped. And then when we go to look at the moon, we already saw the moon's a little bit low in Shadbala, which that's not good for someone's emotional nature. Well, the moon here is... the moon is in the 12th. The moon is in a Dushtana as well. The 12th is known as a hidden house. Well, the moon is with Venus, who's a gentle planet at least. The moon is being aspected by a gentle Mercury as well. So, and Mercury is a manifesting planet, and moon is in the sign, in great friend dignity. Moon is being aspected by Mars, but how's that Mars's dignity? Well, that Mars's dignity actually is Mul Tricone. So we have a cruel planet Rashi aspecting here, but it's not going to hurt as much because Mars is of a higher dignity. Then we see that Mercury is in a great friend dignity. Venus is in a neutral dignity. So this is okay. Now moons, but anyhow, so we're not going to get into the manifesting factors because we're just looking at Karaka here. We're just looking at the one planet. So we can see that. And then we'll also see is that moon, even though it doesn't have the strongest Shadbala value, it is in the sign of a natural friend, Sun. So the moon is getting boosted. So we can see that, you know, there's definitely some saggingness of the moon of not having its 360 points that is required for its Shadbala value. We see that the moon is in the 12th, which is a hidden house. But we do see the moon is with a gentle planet. It's manifested by Mercury. It's in the sign of a natural friend sign, and it does have great friend dignity. So we can see overall, but see the fourth house is the actual house of the emotions themselves. So we can see that there's this cold, hard influence of Saturn. There's going to be some emotional pressure to this person's life. Now, we've gone through this. Now we've looked at the moon. We've looked at the fourth house and the fourth lord. So now let's go into the Shodamsha chart, the D16. I'm sorry, let's make it a big D16 and not a small one. All right, so Shodamsha chart. Shodamsha is about how we handle the road of life. Like, are things basically like going to work out better? Are they going to be more difficult? And so what we see here is, so we can talk about the moon, because look, we have the fourth house. We have moon in the fourth house. We know that the moon is a waning moon from what we saw in the Rashi chart. But the moon is in Mula Tricone dignity. The moon is in Kumara Avashta. this is a moon. This is a great place for the moon here. And then we can also see that, okay, so then we look at, so this is the fourth house, has a cruel moon in it, but moon is not the most cruel planet. It's better than having Saturn in the fourth house. And in a Mull-Tricone dignity, moon is in its greatest sign it can be in over here. So this is actually not that bad. Now we do still see some troubles because we're still being aspected by cruel Rahu. At least we're being aspected by Mercury here, who's going to help manifest the fourth house. So we can see how, this is actually looking pretty positive as far as when we dive deeper into it. We see, okay, this looks okay. Now let's look at the Lord of the fourth Rashi, who's actually Venus, and Venus is the most important planet here in the Shodamsha to look at. So we're looking at this, we see that Venus is in Leo. Well, Venus is in Leo, but Venus is also with the sun as well. Well, Venus with the sun in Leo, that's a natural enemy sign. So that means that this Venus is going to be starved by being in the sun, by being with the sun. We see that Venus is not Rashi aspecting his fourth house. We see that Venus is in a Dridha Avashta. So at least Venus is in an angle, but it's not in the 10th. So it's not really helping. It's a little bit ease and more able to take action in life, but this is kind of a starved Venus. But at least the sun that is conjunct Venus in this chart is in Mull-Tricone dignity. It's being Rashi aspected by Saturn, who's in his own house. So those are two cruel planets on that fourth lord that are in better dignity. And then you have Mercury here, who's going to manifest and help Venus bring about his things. So overall, how would I look at this Venus? I would say this is it's a little slightly below average Venus. When you start looking at all of these factors overall, we know Venus's Shad Bala value itself isn't great. And we know that Lajatati Avashta-wise is being brought into the negative by a stronger sun. So we can see that there's definitely still going to be some struggles, even though it has this strong moon in this Shodamsha chart. And then we can also look at the fourth cusp and the fourth cusp lord. So the cusp is the number. So we see that Saturn here actually rules the fourth house, or the fourth cusp, excuse me. Saturn is also in the 12th, which is a Dushtana, but Saturn's in his own house. So it's actually a decent thing. We see that Saturn's being aspected by this Mull-Tricone moon, by this Mull-Tricone sun. It's aspected by this gentle Venus, who's in a neutral dignity. So overall, there's some cruel influences, but both cruel planets that are influencing are in Mull-Tricone dignity, so they're not really going to hurt that Saturn. But that Saturn's also kind of more protected by being in his own house. And then you have Venus Rashi aspecting. But but Saturn being with the fourth is still Saturn with the fourth. So you're still going to get that here, but it's not going to be as extreme. So you can see when we dive deeper into this that there is still troubles here. There is still troubles with it, but it's not necessarily nearly as extreme of a case. So this is a little bit, but you'll see right here, there are issues. Everywhere you look, there are cruel planets. There's a cruel planet with Venus who rules the fourth Rashi and who's the most important planet in this chart. Venus is in not good, he's in a bad Lajatati Avashta situation. Moon here is a cruel planet. It's not the most cruel planet. Moon is in Mull-Tricone, but it is still in that fourth Rashi. And Moon here is also the sixth lord. Again, here we go. Sixth lord in the fourth Rashi, just like what we saw in the birth chart. So now we're starting to echo this. Saturn still with the fourth cusp. But we see that things are actually better as things go on. Like the surface layer is very troubled. The deeper we look, the less troubled it gets. Now, the point that I wanted to make when tying this back into what we're talking about with Dridha and Adridha, and how this ties into karma. So what could we say about this person's karma, about their emotional experience in their life? Well, what we could say is that yes, it's going to take you a lot more work, to really work with. You're going to need a lot of healing. You're going to need, I recommend, a lot of counseling, a lot of therapies and stuff, and to do what you can to find peace in your life. Take it slower. Try it, because what we're talking about here, Saturn in the fourth, we're talking about extreme vata disorders. There's probably a lot of fear. There's probably a lot of trauma that this person is keeping kind of built up that they need to let go of. So, and what they need to find is they need to find those healing modalities and stuff. But honestly, once they start working with it, it's going to take some work, because this is the idea of Dridha, Adridha, and Dridha, Adridha. So if I were to put a graph here of Dridha, of being a fixed karma, of Adridha, meaning it just takes a little work to get done, and then Adridha in the middle, in between these two extremes, I would say this person is going to be up here, where they're going to have to put more work into it. More work than your average person to be able to find happiness in the world. It's not going to be the easiest thing, and I would say it's going to happen later in life. That's how I would say it. And this is the importance of looking at this. So we're going to do another example, but I think this has gone on long enough. So what I'll do is I'll do another example in another video. So thank you for watching, and be ready for part 2 of part 7. All right. Namaste.